Welcome back. And this morning, the finder gets to start and says that Zipline makes strides as Rwanda expands contract to include emergency medicines. We're told that there's also the pledge to replicate the success story in Ghana soon. And then also on the finder this morning, fierce legal battle over RUPA. The implementation is in the news. We'll talk about that. Now, KMA opens Kajetia access roads to protest human traffic, and the president says never again should Africans permit slave trade. Those are the stories on the finder. The BNFT were paying our customers promptly. That's the Consolidated Bank assuring customers are receptive and confident in the brand. Also on the BNFT, port stakeholders back suit against Ghana Link Unipass. The Daily Graphic, medical drones take off second quarter. A picture of a setup here at a community here in Ghana. And then freight forwarders back suit against the Ghana Link and Unipass story there. The RUPA story also gets some space on the Daily Graphic. The Times has a photograph of the president and the president of South Africa at the commemoration of the 400th anniversary of the transatlantic slave trade. We must restore pride, dignity of Africa. The president talking there. The custodian says that all parties should support Commission of Inquiry. Obiamwa tells the NDC. And no diplomas for junior high school, senior high school graduates. Ministry of Education. And number one faces Dubai court on Val's Day. Government to complete final IMF exit deal. Those are some of the newspapers, the stories I have on some of them. My guest to do the talking this morning, Member of Parliament for the Secondary constituency, is a member of the NPP, Honorable Andre Japa Mensah is here. Good morning.
Good morning, Brian.
And hope you're doing great.
By His grace, I'm well. Good morning to my
colleague here. Right. And he is a member of the NDC's team, Edugyi Tamaklo, is also here. Good morning, too.
Good morning, Bright, and good morning to Malene Senior, Andrew, and good morning to your cherished viewers.
Grateful for your time with us. Let's start with this one, a quick one, and then we can move on. On page 3, the story says that Deputy Minister for Local Government and Rural Development, Obiamwa, has entreated all political parties to support a commission of inquiry to unravel the circumstances that led to some violence at Ayawaso West Wuogon by election. He particularly implored the main opposition NDC to abandon its loud disapproval towards the process and rather back the commission to succeed in the quest to find a lasting solution to electoral violence in the country. Obiamwa is also the MP for Akuapem South, noted that the commission was a bold attempt by President Akufo-Addo to have a full, impartial and non-partisan facts of the Ayawaso incident, as well as other elections-related violence, uncovered and resolved. He says this is a high standard the president is committing himself to in addressing the issue and other related ones towards a lawful public conduct. That's Deputy Minister of Local Government talking there. Edugyi, let me start a conversation with you. The NDC says it will not be part of the work of the commission. This is a deputy minister entreating the party to join the work of the commission. Is there a way the NDC will make a U-turn and go to the commission?
Okay, right. Once again, good morning, and good morning to Malene Senior here. I think there shouldn't be anything wrong if there is a decision to establish a commission of inquiry to look at any matter. In the superior wisdom of the framers of the Constitution, if you look particularly chapter 23, regarding Article 278, you would notice that the president is mandated, as it were, per that constitutional provision, if he's so minded, to come by way of a constitutional instrument to establish any commission of inquiry to look into any matter of public interest. It's important to make this point that the events of the 31st of January where armed men deployed by the Minister of State at the office of the President in charge of national security, having confirmed that those armed men in mask were deployed by him or his outfit or ministry. And you do know that the minister is the direct representative of the president. And you also do know that the men had national security, NSC, written boldly on their t-shirts. Now, when you have this situation and you saw the reckless manner in which they deploy firearms, the impunity with which they conducted themselves in a manner that undermines the rule of law. The position the NDC has taken relative to this matter is that if you look at the laws of this country, particularly the Intelligence and the Securities Agencies Act, the National Security Council Secretariat does not have whether statutory or constitutional mandate to have a standby armed force. In fact, there is a constitutional injunction that you can only maintain an armed force by an act of parliament. So the police is established by an act of parliament. Until recently, custom officers could not even use firearms until their act was amended to permit them the use of firearms. The Ghana Armed Forces is established by an act of parliament. That is what allows for the rule of law. So where you have in this case men armed and deployed by the minister, and remember that the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, is the chair of the National Security Council. I want to submit that at the time the minister said those men were deployed, and in fact, it was a direct question from Bernard Abler to him, were those armed masked men deployed by you? He said, we deploy all kinds of persons. This is a direct answer he provided. Now, Bright, when you have this situation and the evidence is out there, if the president is minded to punish the perpetrators of this heinous crime, what you do is not to establish commission of inquiry. I want to submit on this platform that this whole commission of inquiry is to whitewash the president. I am holding him directly responsible for this act and no one else. Mr. Brana Champon is no mean person. He's a minister lawfully vetted by the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. He now comes on air to say that these men were deployed by us. We have seen these men use violence in the most reckless manner. In fact, even the Ghana police, they have a standard, even under the Criminal Offences Act, justifiable use of force and how that should be done. It was not done under the circumstance. And I'm making the point that, look, my submission that the president is desirous using this commission of inquiry to provide a certain constitutional insulation or immunity for the perpetrators of this crime from facing possible criminal prosecution. And I'm fortified in this submission, Bright, by the well-reasoned submission decision by His Lordship, Justice Mafosah. I want to just read for your viewers so that so that I can just move on to another thing. You know, Justice Mafosah in the Ghana at 50 case made a very profound statement, and that decision has not been set aside. So I can, as lawyer, reference that. And he says this: what the findings and holdings in this ruling show is that if government intention is to prosecute public officers who are alleged to have conducted themselves in a manner prejudicial to the interests of the state in their public duties, the way to go is not to use commissions of inquiry under Article 278 of the Constitution, because the constitutional history behind the establishment of said presidential commissions under our Constitution That intention requires government to use traditional investigative agencies under our laws so that the Attorney General could resort to powers granted her under Article 88 of the 1992 Constitution to mount appropriate legal proceedings if necessary.
Let me.
So on this authority, I am submitting.
Mr. Obiamo is arguing also that the commission's work is not only to punish, but also to prevent recurrence. What about that?
My submission is that, first of all, having taken the view and fortified by this decision by His Lordship Justice Mafusa, my position is that once the persons appear as witnesses, they are completely insulated. And immunity is provided them from criminal prosecution. So the question of they even being punished, that's not even coming at all. Unless, of course, we have decided that these perpetrators of this violent crime, and my learned senior here will agree with me, if I am holding a weapon, and in fact, it is one of those criminal offenses where the burden quickly shifts on the accused person to demonstrate the lawfulness of his possession. In this case, these are men who are not members of our regular forces. They have committed serious crimes. The evidence is there. In fact, the Director of Police Operations, DSP Alex Mensah, was interviewed right there. Are these marksmen your men? He said, no, I know my men, and they are not. The evidence abounds. So, Mr. Obiamo, the question is not about the NDC coming on board. The question is that your president, our president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, having come to the realization that the persons behind this were his people, members of the invisible forces, members of Delta forces, members of his vigilante groups, the terror groups he's used from opposition into government. These are the very people who unleash this violence on the good people of this country. Having come to that realization, the president now comes to the Commission of Inquiry, which, to my reading of the law and the decision of the High Court in the Ghana 50, the persons who appear before the committee, they are provided a certain constitutional insulation from criminal prosecution. It comes to only one irresistible conclusion, that the NDC should not partake in this sham.
Okay, finally, and be brief about it. What about the argument that, for instance, the secretary to the commission, Mr. Kofi Abuchi, is suggesting, and he tries to counter the judgment you read, and said that the police administration could undertake a parallel investigation, and then whatever the findings are can be used against these persons. That is what Mr. Kofi Abuchi said.
In fact, in the Ghana 50 case, the learned Attorney General proffered this kind of opinion, that the two can run concurrently. His Lordship Justice Mafusa responded to that submission, and this is what he says. He says that if government, that intention requires government to use the traditional investigative body and not to have a commission of inquiry. In fact, he proceeds to say, under no circumstance should a commission of inquiry findings develop into criminal trial. Unquote.
I'm grateful. Honorable Mensah, the NDC has adduced reasons why they won't be part of the work of a commission. What do you think we can do to bring the NDC on board?
But right, a commission that has powers of subpoena, that has powers to compel the appearance of witnesses before it, you elect not to participate. Where does that right emanate from?
Well, the party said they won't be part of the work of the commission.
So I'm asking you that the commission that has powers to compel people to appear, you say you will not participate. You do not have that right.
So if the commission invites the person fails to cooperate.
But do you know what the meaning of a power for subpoena is?
Tell me.
right there in the Constitution. Compulsive power to appear and provide evidence. You say you will not attend.
Okay.
If
someone appears and fails to cooperate, will it help the work of the commission?
It's unfortunate that people who, in one breath, claim that they do not trust the security agencies in conducting an impartial investigation and made the call for an independent body to be established to investigate the matter that evolved following the elections. After their call has been heeded to, and Mr. Totobi Kwache's letter, open letter to the president was clear. Now the president has set up the commission, independent commission, to investigate all matters relating to the Ayawaso incident. Now they turn around and say they will not participate because it's a charade. These same people. So it tells you clearly their mindset, the kind of impression that they want to create.
Are they wrong in asking for police investigations?
Oh, so didn't they know that an independent body investigating the matter will lead to people not being prosecuted, assuming, without admitting that that was even the position? At the time that they were making a call for an independent body over and above the police service to investigate, they were not aware. They were not. Is that what you are telling me?
I am asking you a question.
So, you see, look.
What are you wrong in asking for a police investigation instead of a commission?
No, I don't have a problem with whatever call that they make. They are entitled to make whatever call. But I'm saying that we live in this country, and there's no way I'll verify it. I was on a program with him at Metro, condemned it roundly. As to the deployment, based on whatever intelligence that the security agencies picked, I do not have any qualms with them at all. But as to whether their response in dealing with the matter was high-handed, of course, we can have a debate. Okay? In one breath, these are people who are known by the National Security Minister. National Security Minister is responsible for who? In another breath, invisible forces.
Explain
What
what you're saying.
What is the basis for that assertion? When indeed the minister has said that these are people with the national security establishment. You turn around and say that they are invisible forces. Based on what? I don't get it.
Okay, so operating.
But that's what the minister said, no?
Okay.
I think that the president should just remain focused and carry out the mandate or the commission, as has been mandated to do, should carry out their investigations and bring their recommendations to enable us find lasting solutions to problems of by-election violence.
You think we'll get to the bottom without the cooperation of a group?
It would be ideal if we all as a people took away the politicking and admit that, look, this electoral violence, particularly during by-elections, is becoming one too many. We've seen it in the past. No actions were taken by us. Today, it has occurred under another government. That government has taken a decision to investigate those matters and bring closure. Find ways. And look, Bright, people say, and I hear my friends in the NDC say, that the recommendations of the commission would be intended on, as it were, setting some people free. Why? Can we today preempt the recommendations of the commission?
Can we use the commission's recommendation to prosecute?
No, but who says that the commission cannot proffer sanctions or punishment?
He read a judgment from Justice.
It says criminal prosecution. That doesn't mean that the commission, in any event, the commission's judgment or recommendations takes the tone of a high court judgment.
It means what?
So what it means is that the Commission of Inquiry's findings is equivalent to a high court judgment. And so sanctions can be imposed. Recommendations for sanctioning people. Not necessarily, we don't have to always punish people through criminal proceedings. That's what, no, of course, it's a fact.
You see, to suggest
that this is intended to cover some people, clearly it's not borne out by the facts.
The main argument is that what
there's none. That's the point that I'm making.
There's not.
There's absolutely no argument.
The secretary to the commission conceded and agreed that the commission's findings cannot be used to prosecute anybody, but he says that the police can undertake a parallel investigation. You don't agree with him?
You see, I agree with him. What I'm saying is that the recommendations of the commission could include sanctions without necessarily going through a criminal proceeding. That's the point. They are saying that the commission of inquiry's findings cannot be used to prosecute people.
What is the constitution of the
No, I don't have a problem. That's the position of the law.
Okay.
As espoused by
used.
Yes.
Okay.
But I'm saying that the recommendations of the commission itself could include sanctions that a criminal proceeding will seek to achieve.
Now you see.
So please
let him land.
Conclude. So to suggest that they will not participate in the process, for me, it's neither here nor there. Like I said, the commission has powers of compelling people to appear and provide evidence. And if we as a country,
I want us to clear, you are a legal mind, so a lot of my viewers will like education. So you're compelled to come. Can you refuse to cooperate? Would that also be?
Of course, that will go to evaluating your culpability or otherwise. In assessment of the commission's findings, and so it's up to you. Of course, you can't compel anybody to incriminate himself, or like they say, you can force the horse to the river, but you can't force it to drink the water. But that's entirely up to them. I think this is a useful exercise. This is something that we as a country should embrace. This is something that clearly demonstrates the president's commitment at finding a lasting solution to this problem that has been with us over the years, that potentially could lead to something that we all do not wish for. And the NDC's crying wolf, really, listen to them. Consistently changing positions all throughout. You say you do not trust the security forces. Set up an independent commission. The president heeds to that call, to the charging of some members of our party. But I expect the president to do what is right. Okay? Because of his character, the nature of his person. Of course, deploying people and they acting in excess of their powers requires action to be taken. And that's exactly what it is that the president is doing. But of course, they expected that no such thing will be done, so that when the police conclude their investigation, they same people will turn around and say that we do not trust the police. We said we do not trust them. Now the commission that you call for has been set up. You say that is a shari. What did these people want?
Right.
I'm grateful.
Just to
yes, I'm taking a break.
You see, it's important that this point is made very forcefully. The NDC has always indicated its preparedness. And if you notice, immediately party took steps to even meet the Inspector General of Police, including the Electoral Commission. Our resolve and respect for the regular police officers of this country remain unshaken. What we are saying is the deployment of these armed, masked men. Right, you and I are
deployed at your National Congress.
Please. These are persons,
And
you and I, right, you
them.
and I would agree that when a police officer stops you, you are supposed to respect the person. Now, when you have persons whose identity you cannot even vouch for, whether they are policemen, military, what it does is that it even undermines and compromises the integrity of regular police officers and armed men. That is the position of the NDC.
Okay.
And you see, let nobody make this mistake and say, oh, the character of the president and what have you. The NDC's difficulty with the conduct of our president stems from the fact that, and my senior here will attest to it, when a senior police officer, Nanka
You are
Bruce,
very much aware that he declined
look,
to pursue charges against the accused person. You are very much aware.
Nanka Bruce,
And that in those
a
circumstances,
senior
there's not much that
police
can be done.
officer,
You know.
was assaulted at the
the
very
Please allow him to learn. I'll
Was he
get
there?
to
my
the
senior
chance
knows why. My senior knows why. Our president lives or works at the Flagstaff House. This senior police officer was assaulted by members of these vigilante groups, terror groups. At the end of the day, look at the response of the states.
Okay.
The men manning the CCTV camera were the ones that were rather arrested because the Republic suspected that they possibly leaked the footage.
Okay.
That is the state
Okay, let me take a break.
Is that the character we are talking
You wanted
about?
to react to this Nanka Bruce thing.
Right?
He has done that already.
We all know that indeed when the senior police officer was manhandled, action was taken. He, in his own choice, elected not to pursue charges against those individuals.
Okay.
And that was the end of the matter. And in those circumstances, you know that the state
Cannot do
is
anything.
incapacitated in proceeding.
No,
You are very much aware.
Because I was going to ask you that. But let me take a break. So when we come back, we'll delve into the creation of the regional capital. Stay there. We're back in a moment. All right, welcome back to the program, and let's get to our second issue here. We're taking a look at the creation of the new regions and the fallout. Yesterday we saw in Nkoranza, in the Bono, the proposed Bono East region. We're hearing of issues in Waliwali and other places, as well as the Seshui area. The story on the Times says that the chiefs and people of Nkoranza traditional area have expressed their displeasure over the siting of the new Bono East regional capital. They claim that even though government is yet to name the regional capitals for the 6 newly created regions, the Traditional Council was aware that the Minister of Regional Reorganization and Development, Mr. Dan Kweku Botwe, and his deputy, Martin J. Mensah-Kosa, as well as other influential people in the government, have already settled on Techiman as a new regional capital for the Bono East region. They held a press conference yesterday. Honorable Mensah, let's start this way. We are likely to see the processes start today, and so we cannot say that this or that community or town or city is being picked. The people of Nkoranza are not too happy. Are they jumping the gun?
Well, I think so. In any event, only one town can be named as the regional capital, regardless of the fact that many towns within the region would desire to be the regional capital. And so our edge calm. And I expect that His Excellency the President will do the right thing. Will do the needful engagement amongst all stakeholders and arrive at a conclusion that ensures that at the end of the day, the entire region will be the better for it. Of course, I guess it's one of the few issues that both parties are at them with respect to the creation of the new regions. Our friends on the other side proposed 5. We did propose 1. Subsequently, when we came into power, the petitions that came were sufficient enough to enable His Excellency the President commence the process in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. And ultimately, we ended up with 6 regions, adding to the existing 10 to make 16. Of course, the agitations, as far as I'm concerned, are normal with any process.
But in this case, they suggested that certain meetings that were to settle on the capitals, the Nkoranza people have not been invited.
I don't know whether there's the intent would be to convene meetings to settle on which town becomes the regional capital. That prerogative rests with His Excellency the President, and he has to, consistent with our governance practice, engage in some consultations. That, I'm sure, would be done, has been done. Of course, I know that the Western North, there are several big towns,
right,
which are all, jostling for. Bekwai, we also BBNE,
all of them are
all of them,
for it.
But at the end of the day, there's only one town.
But does it show that we have not done enough consultations?
But right, whatever consultations that you do, you would have to make a decision on one. That's the reality. Okay, no matter the level of consultations that you do, people in we also say, and please, I'm in no position as I sit here to know which town has been selected to be the regional capital for Western North. I'm only using this. No, I'm only using Western region because that's the region that I'm more familiar with as an example, purely for purposes of this discussion. And so let nobody quote me that Mr. Mensah sat on TV3 and I cannot preempt His Excellency
the key thing is that you do not know which of
Yes, I do not. I do not know. But I'm saying
you're not in the capacity to know.
Not at all. His Excellency the President is the one who is vested with the power, and he has scheduled a program. 2 regions are going to the executive instrument, I believe, will be signed today. Another
constitutional instrument.
Yes, constitutional instrument. My apologies. And subsequently on Friday, I'm sure I will attend that of Western regions division into 2 on Friday. But I'm saying that whatever it is, all these towns are, as far as I know, big enough, well situated to be chosen as regional capital. But only one potentially would get the chance. For me, the critical thing is the object of the creation of the regions is to accelerate development in our country, because we know the kind of infrastructure that would ordinarily go into regional designations or regions, and what informed the creation of upper region from northern region, subsequently upper east and upper west, informs what it is that has taken place or is going to take place today and in the next couple of days. It obviously accelerates development of infrastructure, social services, and everything into our country, and deepens decentralization as we want to see it. I've heard people argue that, well, really, it is the districts that you need to focus on. And I say that, well, really, you can also focus on only one nation, Ghana, and still build roads and schools and hospitals to the communities that need them. But purely for ease of administrative purposes, it is useful that these divisions are made. Hence, the wisdom that informed our framers in putting in our constitution possibility of creating, and in some cases even possible to some point in our history where we'll decide that, look, yes, we've gotten as much development down, maybe cost wise it may be useful to consolidate the regions and have one unitary state without any region at all. Possible.
Okay, I'm grateful.
And so I will urge calm and let us all have the confidence in His Excellency the President to do what is right in the choice of the towns that would end up being regional capitals for the 6 regions that have been created. Okay,
so the key thing is that no matter what, we'll have some groups not too happy. How do we handle them?
Obviously, I associate with my learned senior's position that at the end of the day, you can only have one regional capital. My only concern is that it does appear that the people in Nkoranza are only asking for broader consultation, because it does appear regardless of whatever they are saying, that their position is that there appears to have been some meetings that they were not involved. And that it appears that there are people from the other towns who may have certain connection with the corridors of power, and therefore they are privy to such consultation, leading to the capital. Remember also that the CIs that will be coming our way relative to this matter, and I understand today the president will be having this meeting, those CIs will definitely be drafted by somebody. Those regional capitals and others will have expression in the CI. So it does appear that somebody within the corridors of power is giving certain information that Nkoranza may not be the president's preferred choice of regional capital for that particular new region. And that is what is informing this particular, concern. I've always maintained that my reading of our laws in terms of our development, how we have developed as a people, and even the superior wisdom of the framers of the 1992 Constitution, one comes to the conclusion that the focus has always been at the assembly level. And that is why even in the superior wisdom of the framers of the Constitution, the idea was to create a district assembly common fund. You do not have regional common funds. In fact, if you look at the local governance structure, the assemblies, the regions do not even have the power to enter into contracts. It is the assemblies that are established by law as body corporates to undertake developmental activities. My senior Yehu Dobos, who is also an MP, will tell you that even his own MP Common Fund often gets through the assembly before he gets that. Because that is where the critical focus, if the idea is to develop this republic. And my position again is that, look, by the 1980s, Upper West was created, which were as the regional capital. 30 years or so in terms of development. Even Greater Accra, that was created out of the eastern region. There are more parts of Greater Accra that remains undeveloped. So if the question is about development, I strongly believe that the focus at the end of the day will still come back to the district assemblies, because they will be jostling. And let me appeal to my learned senior here, who is also MP, that the capping of the district assembly common fund, which is really the focus of our development, reverse that particular law, so that more resources can be made available to the respective assemblies to endanger, a certain development for.
I'm grateful. Let's take some comments. We'll touch briefly on ROPA before we get up.
Senior Bra, and I'm thinking, why don't the chiefs have a place of pride in our local government law? The chiefs, because if you go to villages, to be parties, yes, but if you go to the villages, the chiefs, once the gongo beater hits that gongo, summons everybody. The chiefs has power. Why don't they have power in there? Anyway, good morning to your fellow viewers. Please let these government functionaries know that they can take people for a ride all the time, and they are not the only sensible people in Ghana. They are only there on the ticket of winner takes all. Thanks. Megash Freetown in Sierra Leone said that one. Jagos from Insawam says, I think this introduction of drones will help the country, especially in our health sector, so we must stop the politics we're doing. Good morning, TV3. The commission, as constituted by the president, is another ploy to cover up those hooligans and vigilantes who were assigned by the president's own appointees to unleash mayhem on the electorates so as to allow voter apathy. And indeed, their aim was achieved. Ayo, MPP don't care to win just elections by killing Ghanaians. God save Mother Ghana. Osman Burkisan in Tabale. And good morning, Johnny. I want to know if this NSC ninjas actions which happened at the Ayawaso by-election were to be the opposition NDC government who is ruling. What's going to be the reaction of the ruling MPP party, Big Mama? You want to know if the tables are turned, what the reaction would have been. Okay. When you sit on TV to talk to people, you have to know that the people you are talking to have done critical thinking. The MPP man should give us a break. The question is it not true that the MPP deployed those people? Is it also not true that the Minister of National Security said he deployed them? Good morning. Good morning all. Political expediency indeed from the second MP. He's allowed partisan politics to cloud his hard-earned profession. This is very sad. IB said that one. This commission of inquiry is unbalanced. It's not trustworthy. Why? Because all the members are part of the ruling government. So the commission is not independent. Reverend Roland from Amasaman. Tamale. It says, I think this is to whitewash the president. I tell you why. We all know that under no circumstances that the Commission of Inquiry can use its findings for prosecution. For it is said that justice requires an action, and if you want an act to act a cry in the interest of the country and not the greedy few. Good morning. Right. This NDC man, you people said you will not appear on the commission, so let them wait for their boot for boot in 2020 general election with Muhammad and his family in front, A. Rahim in Tamale. Hi, good morning. I want you to help me ask the Sector Minister of Education, Matthew Poku Prempeh, whether his O-level certificate A is a diploma certificate and where he copies bluntly from. I think he has contributed to Ghana's education being brought to this C level. He should be careful how they use the education to play politics or politicize education. They should give us a break of unplanned policies. Ghanaians are okay with this educational system. This school don't even have textbooks. Why not concentrate on material things that can help the schools, but rather we can mouthwash policies? Derek, Upper East Region, thank you very much. Good morning, Bright, and your resource persons. But sometimes it marvels me when MPP supporters try to compare the violence Talency and others, but the reality, difference, and sensitivity of this issue is that all that happened between two political parties, but there's an issue between the national security officers who attacked the political party for no apparent reason, which needs majority condemnation. Ni Imam Probi. Ghanaians must stand against the president and his confused 111 ministers, not messed up our educational system. Bagari Al-Hassan in Jarapa. Good morning, Brighton Johnny. Please, what is the back and forth in our educational system for? Recently, the Minister for Education talked about increasing the number of years in teacher training colleges to 4 years and award trainees degrees afterwards. Today, the same minister is talking about reducing years spent in universities. Please, Minister, are you reversing your decision of making teacher trainees spend 4 years back to the original 3 years? Yaha Fuzi Kasuli. Aggrieved customers of Gold Coast Securities, Mr. Johnny Hughes, tell Indum that we are dying. He should give us back our monies. Hard. And please, now that this Ayawaso by-election case is looking like a case where a criminal has robbed a bank, his face is seen, his location is known, and then the authority and duty bearers say, let's not arrest this criminal. Rather, let's set up a committee to investigate and find out why he robbed the bank. Really? Philip in Adan is shocked there. Maybe last one there. Hey, so now we are just following the crowd. Whatever other African countries are doing, Ghana must also do. First, it's drone. Now diploma at basic level because money from the sponsors. African leaders will really sell their sovereignty. I hope we well-meaning Ghanaians and their experts should call the dentists to order. Even the university polytechnic graduates don't have job now. Basic to receive diploma to get work to do. Wow. Prosper from Abo is surprised. Right. Thank you very much.
Johnny, grateful for your time. Unfortunately, we've hit the top of the hour, but I'm giving you just 1 minute each. Let's touch on this thing. The EC says give us more time to fix RUPA. Honorable Mesa, briefly.
I was just reading the story, and I guess that the court will have to decide since they are applying for an extension of time.
Right.
To enable them to do that. If the reasons that they articulate before the judge is compelling, then I guess that that order will be made appropriately to enable them implement this law that is way long overdue. Because if I recall, RUPA was passed in 2006, about 13 years ago. Such a long time. I guess that the orders that the court made was for them to implement it within a year from 2017. That has not been met, and they have done, in my mind, what is needful by going back to court to seek for an extension of time to enable them do that. So let's see how
what happens.
The court decides the matter.
Yes, Well, I think that, like the NDC, we have maintained, in fact, at IPAC. And remember that we have a rep, Dr. Benjamin Kumo, on the implementation committee. Our position has always been clear. It's either all or nobody. So if we want all Ghanaians everywhere to vote, that's fine. But you cannot say Ghanaians in US, Ghanaians in the UK, and Ghanaians say in Papua New Guinea will not vote. Then we should have it for all. It's as simple as that.
Regardless of the potential challenges that
what potential? Then, because you see, if it's right, you cannot suspend my right in the enforcement of your even Czech Republic or.
I guess that's the work of the commission, the committee that has been set up.
I'm grateful, gentlemen. Honorable
Mesa
is MP for second year, member of the NDC, and Eduji Tamaklo is a member of the NDC. I'm grateful for your time with us. Stay